Excellent. We're diving into the personnel insofar as the group itself goes and your colleagues. So I don't know if we should repeat that or not. I know it was kind of long-winded. It's entirely up to you if you want to just give them a quick brief recap.
Just a quick overview. Yeah,
yes.
Our organization is a 501c3 non-for-profit organization. We're an academic research institute. We're made up of retired academic professors and lay investigators. The main individuals in our organization were our co-founder, Dr. Edgar Mitchell, Apollo astronaut, died 2 years ago. Dr. Rudy Shields, who's an emeritus professor of astrophysics at Harvard University. Dr. John Climo, who is a retired professor of psychology. And Dr. Bob Davis, a retired professor of neuroscience. And Dr. Leo Sprinkle, a retired professor of psychology as well. And we have Dr. Claude Swanson, physicist from Princeton. Mary Rodwell, who's a very famous researcher from Australia. Kathleen Martin, again, another famous researcher. Written several books on UFO abductions, and several other people.
Mm-hmm. Very good group. Awesome group. Yeah, I'm familiar with Mary. I've interviewed her several times over. Some very, very interesting people there. Certainly qualified for certain. And I'd like to ask you a little bit about the contact modalities and what that entails.
Yes. The contact modalities are all the different ways that humans have had contact with non-human intelligence. That would be UFO-related contact, out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences, channeling, remote viewing, hallucinogenic journeys, etc. So it's all the different ways that humans are piercing the veil and having contact with non-human intelligence.
Right. And to you, it sounds like it's just an altered state of consciousness. It's a flow of consciousness, but these are different dimensional feeds, or how do you interpolate the data insofar as how do you separate this? I understand it's like one hub of information or one hub of collective energy, but I'm curious insofar as how it's defined or how you're able to kind of separate these things.
Okay. It's not just me. It's the whole team in our organization, including advisors of, for example, Dr. Dean Radin, the lead scientist at the Institute for Noetic Sciences. We have Dr. Kenneth Ring, who's the leading academic researcher on near-death experiences. He's a retired professor of psychology. He's written several books on near-death experiences. Dr. Claude Swanson, Ph.D. physicist from Princeton. Rudy Shield, astrophysicist from Harvard. Edgar Mitchell, et cetera, et cetera. All of the scientists in our organization and lay investigators, as well as most of the individuals, of the researchers in the field of parapsychology, most of the professors that are studying this phenomenon, they all believe that what we are terming the contact modalities, all of the paranormal ways that individuals are experiencing contact with non-human intelligence, that it's all one phenomenon, that they're not separate phenomena. Okay, it's all one phenomenon being expressed in many different ways, and that consciousness, which is how humans are interacting with the very fabric of our reality, that consciousness is the key to be able to understand this interrelationship. And it's a concept that it's totally alien from the field of ufology, because most of ufology, the vast majority of ufology, mainstream ufology, just sees this as a nuts and bolts phenomenon. They're mainly interested in looking at UFO pictures. They're mainly interested in the grays, in the physical UFO craft, et cetera, et cetera. But what the vast majority of people that have had contact with non-human intelligence, they will tell you that they have had out-of-body experiences. They have had near-death experiences. They have received channeled information. They have received downloads. They have all of the psychic ESP type of experiences, precognition, for example, after they've had contact experiences. Also, their experiences with these entities more than double the amount of people, these experiencers, have been brought to other realities. Like in that Jodie Foster's movie, Contact. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Right, yeah,
Okay.
excellent film.
Double the number of people have had those types of experiences than people that have had abductions. Okay. These beings are able to manipulate space-time. Okay. And that's been fully documented by Dr. Jacques Vallée, Dr. Alan Hynek, Dr. John Mack, in our research study. So even the field of what is typically seen as ufology, okay, one of our major findings, and I could go all of this in detail later on, is that this phenomenon is primarily not a physical phenomenon, but instead it's a paranormal phenomenon. So that's why the importance of the contact modalities is central to what we're doing, because our hypotheses, and this hypothesis that's shared by many Ph.D. physicists and parapsychologists, is that all of these phenomenon is one phenomenon, and that advanced quantum physics and advanced physics theories of consciousness can begin to explain this relationship.
Makes perfect sense to me. Yeah, and I don't know if you all get into what seems like you would with the supernatural and the paranormal. Do you get into the chakra centers and how the chakras and the meridian systems of the body and how the body can be holographic, can be accessed on a multidimensional scale through states of consciousness? Do you go into those realms?
Well, many of the experiencers have gotten into that later on, and they are validating that. Okay, before it was like a pure metaphysical phenomenon documented, by numerous, spiritual texts, throughout history. But a lot of the experiences have validated that approach. We just don't understand it. That's what it is.
Right. Yeah.
That's just like advanced physics. Okay.
Right.
We all know that quantum physics exists, but we still are not able to explain it. Just like consciousness. Okay. You ask any academic that studies consciousness, what is it? How do you define it? Well, nobody knows how does it work? How do you define it? So,
right. And what perimeters are you using? I know that the people that contact you usually fill out a form. Is that right? But do you use any technology to measure the energy or the signatures of the people or anything like that?
No. I mean, we don't have any funding for what we're doing. We're just self-funding as we're moving along. What we did is we formed a very large committee in the very beginning. We had like 25 people. We had most of the major people that had worked on abductions. We had many people that had worked in the paranormal field. And then what we say to ourselves, okay, this has never been done. How do we go about doing an investigation worldwide with minimal funding about people who have had these phenomena? So what we decided to do is we decided to do 3 extensive surveys. The first 2 surveys would be quantitative in nature, either yes or no, or from 1 to 5, fill in the blank, that type of thing. And that was a total of 700 questions, which was very, very extensive. And we asked numerous topic areas, and I think I sent you some of those topic areas.
Yes.
Numerous topic areas that were never discussed in this field, because it was mainly associated with abductions. And then we also had a phase 3, which is a qualitative instrument, which is we asked 70 questions, open-ended questions, and we told people to write out the details to these 70 questions. So what we wound up with the quantitative surveys, we wound up, this is in the English language survey. We were doing the survey in multiple languages. So from now on, I'm just going to be talking about the English language survey. We wound up with 4,200 individuals that took our English language survey, and we received responses from more than 100 countries. And then for the phase 3, we received over 10,000 pages of written responses from individuals from most of these countries. And it took us 9 months to develop a methodology for that survey. And what we focused on, focused on the demographic information, age, gender, occupation, the state and the city, their race, their ethnicity. This is all anonymous. You know, we didn't want to know who they were or where they lived or date of birth or anything like that. It's pure anonymous. We focused on contact experiences with non-human intelligence via telepathic communications, contact experiences physically, either here on Earth, contact experiences in a perceived spacecraft, contact experiences in another 3D reality, like in another planet or under the ground or in another physical phenomenon. We also had contact experiences in a non-3D reality, what we would call like a matrix type of reality. We had numerous questions on psychic and parapsychological aspects of the contact experiences. We asked numerous questions about the nature of the intelligence or the being that they were interacting with. You know, if it was physical, what did it look like, that sort of thing. Information that were received from non-human intelligence. We asked the physical aspects of the contact experiences, and that's where the abduction stuff primarily focuses on. They primarily focus on the physical aspects of the contact experience. We asked childhood experiences, the psycho and physical change, how they change physically and psychologically from the experiences. We asked life experience changes, how they were before and after. We asked religious questions and spiritual related questions. We asked the overall attitude, opinions of the experience and of the beings and overall of the phenomenon. And then we asked them, summary questions like, how were they before these experiences began, and how were they after these experiences began? Like the most recent, what are your beliefs now? What do you believe now? So these types of questions, no one had never asked any of these questions except the abduction type of related questions. And even then, the few statistical studies that had been done, they only asked 50 questions. They asked it to like the 50 people. And it was very, very limited. So we actually knew almost nothing about this phenomenon. What you had before a research study is you had thousands of people that would write their books. They would go on radio shows, talk about their experiences. I'm sure you've interviewed hundreds of these individuals. But you never had any type of academic comprehensive study that told you overall what the hell's going on with this phenomenon.
Right. Yeah, I applaud you all for doing that work. It's awesome. Yeah, go ahead.
It's 5 years. It was, this was all volunteers. You know, we were all paying our own funding for this because just the SurveyMonkey program for each language each year was $330. There were, lots of expenses associated with this. And that was just one of the main expenses that we had. And, but we've got tons of data, and we finally wound up publishing an 820-page book on this phenomenon.
That's fantastic, and I can't wait to read mine. I know you sent it, and thank you so much. And I also, how would people purchase that book? What's the best way to do that?
Well, the name of the book is titled Beyond UFOs.
Oh, where'd he go? Are you there? Okay. Are you there? Did I just lose my guest? Hello? Gosh, we're having technical problems tonight, guys. I don't know what's going on here. You just went away there. I see that he's still online, but I don't see him, and that is very strange. So stand by, everybody. I'll see what the heck's going on. That's bizarre. He just faded out. I wonder if his phone died. This is bizarre. Can you hear me? Hang on for a second, everybody. This has been a very interesting evening. Oh, it looks like it's still there, but it's not doing anything. Let me go ahead and redirect this. That's very odd. All right, everybody, stand by. We're going to do this one more time. All right, everybody, stand by. Are you there again, Ray?
Hello, Rey Hernandez.
Hi, Ray. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. You just dropped out as soon as we mentioned, or you started to talk about your book. You just went. So I'm not sure what happened. Can you let everybody know once again the title of your book and how it can be purchased? I apologize for the technical issues. We usually don't have these. I don't know what's going on.
I always have problems on the phone, like electrical problems.
Okay, so it's you. Okay, I feel better now. Go ahead.
It's the title of the book is Beyond UFOs: The Science of Consciousness and Contact with Non-Human Intelligence.
Nice.
And it's available via Amazon. So it's Beyond UFOs. The reason for that title is because most people associate this, as mainly UFO-related type of topic. What we're saying is, look, it's way, way beyond UFOs. It's so much more complicated than that, okay? Mm-hmm. And then it goes on, the science of consciousness, because that's what we're presenting our book as, that the research study that we're presenting presents not only the case studies of consciousness via the experiencers, but also we present various different models, scientific models of consciousness, and try to associate that with the contact experience. Mm-hmm. So it's the science of consciousness and contact with non-human intelligence.
I love it. Yeah, that's excellent. And how do you define non-human intelligence? I know most people just assume it's an alien life form, or would it be something more interdimensional or spirit-based, or are they all the same?
Oh, yes. Well, this is the problem with this field, mm-hmm. because almost everybody refers this as ET or right. an alien, Mm-hmm. And so what we found out in our research study is the vast majority of people that have had these type of experiences, the number one type of being, at 55% of the people that have had contact, they've had contact with energy beings. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Not a gray, energy beings. The number two type of being is a human-looking being. That's number two at 52%. Mm. The number three being finally comes the short grays at 51%. Okay? Number four at 46% are the beings that people term the spirit being or the ghost and spirit beings. Okay, mm-hmm. That's at 46%. Okay, and again, there's a whole cornucopia of different types of beings that people are seeing, but those the tall grays, which are defined that they look like the little grays, but they're 5 to 6 feet tall. Those are 36%. Okay, the reptilian beings, which looks like a crocodile head with a long tail, 300 or 400 pounds, or even more. Those types of beings are at 22%. Mm. And then there's the beings that looks like a mantis, praying mantis type of being. That's also at 22%. And then there's like a hodgepodge of so many other different types of intelligence. Now, so that's why these are the physical type of beings. But mm-hmm. then there's a whole lot of people that have had interactions with these energy beings, these plasma beings. They get mm-hmm. brought to other realities. The beings that they're associating with are very similar, like a near-death experience, where these entities are all radiated human. They look like humans, but all radiated with energy. And again, these are not near-death experiences, but they get brought to these other realities. Mm-hmm. So you just can't say ET, because right. when you say the word ET, what do people associate with? They associate with a gray primarily. Okay? Correct. Yeah. So this is much, much more profound than a gray.
Agreed.
And so the appropriate term would be non-human intelligence.
I like that. Yeah, no, I agree with you 100% on that. Yeah, and then, of course, there's that imprinting going on, because when you have just that generic terminology, in my opinion, when they're just saying one word, then everybody assumes that it's just that, when in fact it's very complex. So one thing I was going to ask you, go ahead. Yeah,
and what I also, just to add to that, is that if you just use the word ET, or if you just use the word gray, you just go to the internet or the YouTube, and you have the vast majority of all these videos or all these websites have this sinister-looking little gray or ugly gray that's doing all these evil, dreaded experiments on you. That's mm-hmm. like 95% of these websites.
Right.
So what we found out through our research study is that actually is a very small component of this phenomenon. And that's what the field of ufology just doesn't get. Why? Because no one has ever done the research before.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. And from what I was understanding, that most of the people that have had experiences have been very positive experiences.
Yes, we ask that question of positive, negative, and neutral in many, many different ways, because depending on how you ask the question, you'll get a response. For example, let's just give you let me just pull this out. We asked the question, if you could stop, and we defined the term ET as non-human intelligence, and we use that interjected that term throughout our questions. So we said anytime we use the word ET, we mean non-human intelligence. So we asked that question: if you could stop your ET contact experiences, would you? 84% of the people said no. Mm-hmm.
I believe it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, 84% of the people said no. We asked the question, for example, also, how would you categorize your first few and your last few contact experiences with non-human intelligence? Okay. So let's take a look at the most negative one. Okay. The most negative was a case of abduction of the most negative kind. Okay. Mm-hmm. This is now for the last few experiences. Only 8%.
That's good.
Okay. It was a case of abduction, but of a milder kind, a slightly more caring kind. That was 13%. Okay. Mm-hmm. It was still a case of abduction, but we're seeking permission, where more humane, compassionate treatment was used. 8.7%. Mm-hmm. Now, we get into the categories that totals more than 70%. These are the contactees. Okay, you are not an abductee, but a contactee, where you're being treated with respect and understanding. 35%. Okay, it was a case of being a conscious contactee, an egalitarian, an equal relationship. Again, another 35%.
Nice.
So again, you're talking about more than 1,000 people. These are the people who've had these abduction-related type of experiences. 70% of these people have stated, "Don't call me an abductee. Call me a contactee." Mm-hmm. And of the most negative kind, only 8%.
Very good.
We also asked the question, do you believe the ET, parentheses, non-human intelligence, are bad, malevolent, or evil? 9% said yes. 91% said no. Okay? How would you describe your experiences? Positive, negative, or neutral? Positive, 66%. Neutral, 29%. Negative, 5%.
Very good. Wow, okay. That's very interesting.
So, yes, we asked that question in many. These are just 3 or 4 examples that I gave you. Mm-hmm. But just to let you, depending on the question, it was between 85% to 95% were positive, these experiences.
Very good.
But also for the entities, we asked the questions for the different types of entities. Okay. For example, we asked. We'll just talk about the negative aspects of it, right? For the energy being, 7% was negative. For the human-looking being, 5% was negative. For the short gray, what would you guess were the negative experiences with the short
higher.
grays?
I don't know, 10%?
What number?
15%.
It was 11%.
Okay.
Okay. With the spirits or the ghosts, 7%. With the tall grays, 12%. With the evil, dreaded reptilians, what percent you think the people said that it was mainly negative?
Oh, gosh. 9%? I don't know.
23%.
Oh, really? Okay. Wow.
23%. Actually, the 60% said it was neutral. And 17% said it was positive. So, and then once we asked in phase 3, for the people that had these reptilians experiences, could you detail why you answered, the way you answered to that question? Okay. And what we found out was that the vast majority of these people were scared to death because of what they physically looked like. Because these were beings that were 7 to 8 feet tall, dressed like a crocodile, 400 to 500 pounds with a long tail, standing right next to you. you're going to be petrified. So that's why most of these people answered that way. It wasn't that they raped, your wife, or if you were female, they raped you, or your children, they ate your children. It wasn't stuff like that.
Right. And it's more of a psychological
nonsense stories.
Right, and it seems like it was more of a psychological response.
It's frightening, exactly. Many of the people, for example, what we asked their questions, how would you describe your first few contact experiences, right? 38% of these people described it as negative, their first few experiences, okay? Later on, that percentage, as you saw it, drastically changed, okay? It changed depending on the questions that we asked, from 85 to 95%, positive, and the reason why it changed was because people then reflected back and said, look, when that little gray appeared in my bedroom, I was scared straight. I was scared stiff, okay? I was totally traumatized by that. One was because the physical appearance of the being, that's number one. Number two, the ontological shock. All of a sudden, your reality is destroyed, okay? What is this?
Right.
Here I am, I'm a God-fearing Christian going to church and stuff like that. This little gray being is communicating with me to chill out, on my bed, and then but then over time, the vast majority of people have multiple experiences afterwards. Okay. We did a question. We asked, how many experiences have you had? And we grouped it, one time, 2 to 3, 3 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20, and more than 20. Okay. And so the vast majority of people have had more than 20 experiences. Okay. That was the number one category selection. It was like 60% of the people have had more than 10 experiences. Okay. Now, we also found out was that the more experiences they had, the more positive the experience became. Okay. And one pattern that we saw was with a lot of people, it started with these gray beings. Okay. With these grays interacting with them. But then later on, all of a sudden, the humans started interacting with them. The human-looking being, or the spirit, or the energy being, started interacting with them. And that's when you get all of these, multi-dimensional, the spirit world type of aspects of communications for many,
Right. That makes sense.
And so what we saw was that initially the experience was perceived as negative, mainly because of the ontological shock, what the being looked like. And also for many people, they were on a slab. They were being inspected. Okay, we had about 250 people that answered that they were on the table, and was mainly these short grays were inspecting them, okay, and doing some type of procedure on them. Okay, so that aspect was clearly defined. But what we had was that almost double the amount of people were brought to other realities and then had the spiritually related type of experiences. Almost double the amount than the people that had abductions. But yet, when you listen to the people in this field, in the field of ufology, they would never tell you these things. Why? Because they never researched these things. Because they never asked these questions. Okay, and but yet when you talk to individuals, they've had a little bit of everything.
Yeah, they certainly have. And is this hereditary based? I mean, did you ask the question if it was connected to their ancestors? I know we kind of talked about this off air. Okay.
Yes. We asked it, and it was roughly 60% of the people have had their children or their parents that have had these experiences. And for some of them, they don't have children, or they never got to ask their parents and things of that sort. But I know in my family's case, on both sides, my mother has had paranormal experiences. My father, as I told you, had a near-death experience. He also was seeing dead people in the house. My mother had an experience with her mother who was dying. My wife's mother has seen various crabs in Mexico several times, very up close. So these phenomena are very, very common in the family hierarchy. And also, these phenomena are also very, very common at large, in society at large. What you get is that most people don't talk about these things.
Exactly.
For example, my wife, even though she's had all these experiences, she was deeply involved with the Catholic Church beforehand. She still is, but somewhat, not anywhere near like before. Like before was like every Sunday, she had to go to church and I had to accompany her. Now it's like every 3 months she goes to church, So it's a profound change in her. But I had made a lot of friends through that Catholic Church, very, very good people. And I started telling them these things that were happening. And then little by little, this guy had a near-death experience. This guy had an out-of-body experience. This guy had been seeing ghosts and spirits. My niece had seen a ghost or the spirit of a dead man, the guy that died in their house, in full detail. At church, I've met 5 people that had near-death experiences. My daughter's pediatrician had a near-death experience. One of my best friends confided in me that he'd been having out-of-body experiences over the last 10 years. This guy who's studying to be a deacon at the church, the wife confided in me that he was having out-of-body experiences. And then I asked him, I said, is that true? And he was very embarrassed, and he said, yes. And he said that Monsignor told him to stay quiet, Same thing with the guy who's the head of the church ministry, the prayer ministry. He had a near-death experience. And the Monsignor told him, look, don't mention this to anyone because the church doesn't accept that. So friends of mine have seen large orbs. One was a large orb, he's from Nicaragua, that was like the size of a Volkswagen, in the forest.
Wow.
That was like following them around. This other man from Ecuador, his father had seen, he was coming back from the jungle of Ecuador, going up to the mountains, but he was still, heading towards the mountains. He was still in the forest area. And all of a sudden, at night, there was no stars. All the stars were blacked out. And what had happened was that all of a sudden, then the whole forest was all illuminated like daylight. It was the lights from a craft, a big, gigantic craft that was like miles wide, illuminated the whole jungle. Okay. Wow. And when he looked up, he got to see the bottom of it, And he told his son, and he said his father was hardcore Catholic, didn't drink type of person, So you hear these stories over and over and over and over again. Once you start telling your experiences to other people, then they start revealing their personal experiences. I could go into 100 people here in Miami over the last, I've only been here, living here 15 years. Over the last 10 years that have told me these things. And so it's all over the world. The neighbor 2 houses down, she's had UFO contact experiences. She's been aboard a UFO. She's had a near-death experiences. 2 of her children, her father, and her husband, who is an attorney, just like I am, admitted all of that to me. Okay. Wow. And this is 2 houses down.
Amazing. So, very interesting.
No. Yeah, it's but what it is that you have to open up your mouth. Okay, you got to start. Like for example, today at a Publix, which is like where you go grocery shopping. Here in Florida, this man was like super happy and was like smiling and very, very cheerful. And here I was. It was like 9:30. I went to get some cereal, for breakfast tomorrow. And so we started up a chat. And at the end, I said, look, go to YouTube and look up near-death experience. Okay, go watch a couple of videos. Okay, because it's going to show you that you are an eternal spiritual being. And he was like, oh, I never heard of that. I said, but you need to promise to me. He says, okay. I do that with out-of-body experiences, with near-death experiences. I talk about UFOs. For example, I went to Honda to get a part from my car, right? And I told the lady about, UFOs and things of that sort. And lo and behold, maybe not every day, but like one every 2 or 3 days, you're going to hit the lottery. And someone will tell you something about their personal experiences. Okay? And that's when you realize, oh, my God, so many people are having these experiences, but just like the vast majority of people that took our survey, they have only told members of their immediate family.
Right.
That's it. Everyone's quiet about it.
I'm so glad you opened up the door for communication with this, because the way you've been analyzing the data is very impressive, and it's well needed, obviously. And that is one thing that does bug me about the UFO community. It's almost a turnoff because they don't really do a lot of research, real hard research. So
No, it's never been done before. I mean,
Mhm.
we have two members of our board of directors. Let me just plug the electricity here to my phone here.
Okay.
We have three people that work with us in our free experiences studies. Those are the three main people that have done real research in this area. The first one is Dr. Leo Sprinkle, and he's published several academic articles on abductees. He did several studies where he applied the Minnesota Mental Health Assessment Test. I forgot the formal name of it, but it's a test basically where you determine whether someone's crazy or not. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
And so he did several studies of that, of people that have had abduction type of experiences, and the results of his studies were that these people that have had abduction experiences are just as normal as anyone else. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Dr. John Mack, who's a Ph.D. Psychiatrist at the Harvard Medical School, also concluded that people that he had been working with are just as sane and just as abnormal as everyone else. Dr. John Klimo, who's a Ph.D. psychologist, a member of our board, also, concluded the same thing. Kathy Martin, a member of our board of directors, did this research study where she did a statistical study of 50 people. She had asked 50 questions, and then Dr. Kenneth Ring, who was an advisor to FREE, he did a quantitative research study in 1984, I think it was. That book was titled The Omega Project. And what he did is he compared roughly 85 individuals that had near-death experiences with 85 people that had abduction type of experiences. And he looked at how these people changed, how these experiences affected them. And we borrowed roughly 100 questions from his statistical research study. Mm-hmm. And what he concluded was that 85% of both groups, the abductees and the experiencers, 85% underwent a profound psychological transformation for the positive.
Mm-hmm.
And I was shocked. I said that you read all these abduction stories and you hear these abduction stories, you hear these interviews with a lot of people, and you would think a certain way, right? That these people are traumatized for the rest of their life. Okay. But once you talk to these people that have had these real abduction experiences, okay, like Whitley Strieber, for example, he's a classic case, okay? Mm-hmm. He's a person that was totally traumatized by these experiences in the beginning. But now he's Mr. Love and Light. Mm-hmm. He's Mr. Spirituality. He thanks God for the experience that happened to him, because that's what's transformed him. Okay? Mm-hmm. Let me go through some of those questions. That was one of our major findings. Okay. For example, did you fear death? Do you now fear death? Okay. And before and after. Okay. Before, the vast majority feared death. Mm-hmm. After these experiences, they don't fear death. Okay. Mm. Material wealth. Everybody was all about the money. Okay. I want to become wealthy. Okay. I want to drive a nice Mercedes. After these experiences, when they took their survey, nope, money is not a priority anymore in my life, okay? Are you more spiritual or less spiritual? Overwhelmingly, like 85% more spiritual, okay? We ask questions. Let me go through the actual questions so you get to see the actual, the questions that we asked and the response, okay? Mm-hmm. Just so you get to see just how profound, okay, this is all increased, okay? The question is, since I first became interested in my UFO contact experience, okay, we asked increase and decrease. So this is increase. My desire to help others, my compassion for others, my appreciation of the ordinary things in life, my sensitivity to the suffering of others, my concern with spiritual matters, my desire to achieve a higher consciousness, my appreciation of nature, my spiritual feelings, my concern with the welfare of the planet, my understanding of what life is all about, my personal sense of purpose in life, my concern with ecological matters, my conviction that there is life after death, my acceptance of others. Okay,
Wow.
all of those were between, the minimum was 70%, it went all the way up to 95% increase.
Oh, awesome. That's wonderful.
Okay, it's a huge transition. Now, let's look at the decreased. Okay, since I first became interested in my UFO contact experience, this is all that decreased. My concern with material things in life, okay, decreased was 68%.
Wow.
Has not changed was 27%.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 68% of these people, all of a sudden, they're not concerned about material things in life.
Mm-hmm.
My interest in organized religion, okay, that's 64% decreased.
Wow.
My competitive tendencies, okay, that's almost 60%. They became less competitive. 35% stayed the same. My fear of death, okay, huge number. We got almost 70%. All of a sudden, they don't fear death anymore. 24% stayed the same. And then in terms of the opposite, increased, their fear of death increase was almost 4%. That's it. Okay. My desire to become a well-known person. My interest in achieving material success and becoming wealthy. Okay. So my response to all these people that are promoting all these fear-mongering, okay, so look at this data. Look at how thousands of these people that took our survey, look how they changed. Mm-hmm. So from my perspective is, I hope and pray that these entities have contact with everyone on this planet. Mm-hmm. Because if they have contact with everyone on this planet, we're going to be a totally different, humanity.
Correct. Yeah, I agree. And let me ask you, it's my impression, because we are multidimensional beings, and this is just me, we are the alien intelligence. In other words, I believe that we are these beings in another formula here on this dimension, and perhaps we are actually just like them off planet. What is your impression?
Well, we asked those types of related type of questions. They're part of the paranormal type of questions that we asked. And believe me, we asked almost 100 of these type of questions. And it just went on and on and on. We also asked questions in terms of what the beings told them, okay? Mm-hmm. For example, did the ETs give you any message of reincarnation? 26% said yes. Mm. Okay? Did the ETs tell you that your spirit, your soul, was at one time an ET? 24% said yes. Mm. Okay? Did the ETs tell you that at one time you had a relationship with them, these ETs, in a past life? 24% said yes. Wow. Okay? So I'm just giving you just was this information, ET communication concerning life after physical death, the spirit world? 29% said yes. Okay? Mm. Did the ETs give you a spiritual message? 54% said yes. Did the ETs give you a message of love and oneness? 54%. Mm. Okay. Now, in terms of the anomalous type of experiences, let me go over some of them. Okay. What are major conclusions? We have several major findings from this. One was that this experience is overwhelmingly a positive experience, and I gave you a couple of those illustrations. Mm-hmm. And I even went through the being, the people that had seen the specific being, how did they categorize their interaction with each specific being, okay? Now, that was the one major finding. The other major finding was the overall transformation that these people went through, okay? And I illustrated those questions, okay? That's just some of the questions. But it gives you an idea that, before they started, we'll use Willie Friedberg, for example. He was someone that was non-spiritual. In my case, I was a total atheist. Okay, mm-hmm. These beings put me through a whole bunch of experiences, and one of them was a 4-month type of experiences related to near-death experiences, which is too lengthy for me to go into.
Right, and we are going to head for a quick break there, Ray. So hold that thought, everybody. We're heading for a quick break. This is Ravenstar's Witching Hour. I'm your host, Solaris BlueRaven. My incredible guest tonight is Rey Hernandez. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.